Thank you, everyone, for joining the Men's Yoga Podcast. I'm finally back after a long delay. I was on the road and getting the yoga clothing line set up. And so I'm finally back on the road, and I'm with John Buckner here. He's going to share with us some stories, how he got into yoga and how and what it means to him. And John, thank you so much for joining us today on the Men's Yoga Podcast.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. Thanks for reaching out. I appreciate it very much myself.
Yeah, I was really inspired with what you were putting out on Instagram. And I don't know, I was just loving the vibe of it, man. I was loving the photos and stuff like that. It's really unique way of taking the pictures and stuff. There's like a bit of art with it as well, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. Instagram is a tricky place. I started a whole yoga page and didn't know what exactly I was going to do with it, what my thoughts were with it. And I just kind of started playing around with different stuff, and you never really know if anybody's paying attention. And then, my Instagram page is nothing like some people have, but I would start getting messages and just different people like sending stuff. Like it was kind of cool. So we'll see where it goes, but I appreciate it. You never know if anybody's actually looking, I guess is the right way to say it.
It's true. It's so true. It's so true. Well, I felt it very inspiring, and I was really, really liking it. But let's dive into a little bit about John, because what I like to do on the Men's Yoga Podcast is just share how men got into yoga, for one. Okay. Especially on this side of the world, right? It's a little bit different for us, and
absolutely.
And then how, I just want to share that experience with men, because I know, what it's done for me and other men that I've had on the podcast, and just the positive effects, right? When we're dealing in this crazy world around us. And so we'll start. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, no, you're fine. I'm sorry. Get the audio thing correct. No, I think my journey began probably like the most common way that a guy gets into yoga. It happens for. I had some serious back issues that were going on. I was really overweight at the time too. I'm a big guy. I don't think that's ever going to go away, but I was a lot bigger at the time. And a really good friend who's also happened to be the wellness director at the university that I work at. Her name's Megan. She's I attest a lot of my start of yoga journey to her. She recommended that I go and try the faculty staff after work yoga class to try and get some back pain relief.
Awesome. So how quick was that pain release? Like, how quick did you notice the difference?
So there's a lot that goes into like the back problems that I have that I had and have now. I noticed some really good relief pretty fast. Actually, I had a spasm that was going on, and doctors and so on, they just put it off as just my weight problem. I did have some serious issues going on that needed to be addressed. However, I did get some good relief from starting the yoga. Just like it was just a Monday afternoon, hour-long class that a few people would show up to. And
what was that sensation? What was that sensation like after the class? Actually, let's start with your first going in. Yeah, let's just go with what was it like?
So it was funny too, because that first time I hit Shavasana, I was out like a light. Like I was just
nice.
It was just it was interesting. It was new. I was moving my body in a way. I was nearly 400 pounds at the time when I started too. So it was just, I had a lot of different other stuff going on, and it was just kind of like this refreshing feeling, like kind of like when you hit like refresh on a web page, or kind of us getting situated here, just having to hit refresh. All of a sudden I hit refresh, and there I was, just kind of like filled with this new life and new energy that I didn't exactly know what was going on and what to do with it. And I just knew that I liked it. And it was like, okay, well, let's see what this is, and what we can do with this a little bit. But it went a little, I mean, just like anything, it has its, kind of different flows is the way I like to put it, right?
Right. Are you referring to like going back to the mat?
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going to dive all the way in, I enjoyed it. As the class started to grow, though, and more people started to go, I became a little self-conscious of my weight and those kind of things. And I did I did pull myself away from going to the class. And I just really, then from there, I developed a really strong at-home practice. I did more research. I just started doing a lot more things. And really, I would have to say then the next, probably I started in 2014. I really did go on kind of a whole like little weight loss journey. But I didn't really go into a studio then and practice until some years later, which is when then I I got really hooked into the whole thing for sure.
Amazing. So let's start. What does a day look like for you then? Go ahead.
I'm up early. I like to get up early. It's a habit that I started those years ago when I kind of went through this whole little life transformation. I'm usually out of the bed and feet on the ground no later than 4:45 a.m. I start my morning every single morning with a 15-minute hot tub soak in my backyard. Then I go with coffee, and I try to start with some sort of mindfulness. Some sort of just like usually like a restorative, like meditative pose. Except for Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, I'm up and I hit my 5:30 a.m. Hot power infrared sauna heating hot power class where it's about 100 degrees in the room when we walk in.
Oh, damn. Man, I just got into hot yoga. I just started hot yoga this week. I hadn't even touched hot yoga before. And
oh, wow.
I was like, my body's crying like crazy. Like it's just the amount of water that is coming off of you. It's insane.
Yeah, it's intense. It's addicting too, kind of. I hate to say it. It's my favorite way to practice. Not my favorite way to teach because you need a lot of breath. But it's my favorite way to practice. And it was a totally different dynamic when I transitioned from the studio I was at to the studio I'm at now. And it was like the other one I was at was like a furnace heating style. This is infrared panels, and the heating is unexplainable. It's insane, the difference between a furnace heat and the infrared panel heat.
Right. So would it be like a difference of dryness in the room, like breathing wise?
Yeah, you don't get that. Yeah, you don't get that same dry sense in your nose and that kind of feeling from like that furnace heat, and the infrared's heating you almost internally out. So you're almost kind of like a furnace on the inside going out. I mean, it's amazing. It's great on Tuesdays and Thursday mornings, and I usually try to do it again on like Saturday mornings as well.
So how long did it take you to get so committed to this then? Because you seem pretty committed to like your mindfulness practice, right? Which essentially would be a part of yoga as well. Like
it is. It absolutely is. So I think so. There's a lot, and I don't know what our time frame is. So I'll try to give you the great cliff notes. So I've had a very, very interesting life. I'm sure everybody hears that and so on and so forth. To get to where I'm at today was probably one of the most unique journeys anybody's been on. And I say that not in a conceited way. I say that in just because that's what I've been told. I'm just over here just trying to live. So I didn't really indulge into myself personally until around 2015. I had some serious life issues happen. I lost 2 brothers to drug and alcohol addiction, 35 and 38 years old. I lost them within 12 months of each other at the end of 2014 and then at the end of 2015. I would say I started this journey around 2015. That's when I had kind of really developed the home practice. I had really started getting into weight loss. Started doing some running as well. A lot of running, actually. That's kind of attesting to my back problems that I have now, but that's kind of how it works sometimes. And then really in 2016 is when I really like kind of grabbed life by the horns and said, you have the ability to do anything that you want to do if you just stop and put your mind to it. I kind of always go back to like how this whole thing started. Like, it was a few months before that first brother passed. Very first time keeping me carrying through a lot of different journeys. I also, in 2017, decided that going to college was going to be the best idea in the world. At the young age of 37 years old, completed my 4-year bachelor's degree in about 5, working full-time family, teenage daughter, all the good stuff. Wow. Yeah. And I mean, I got certified to instruct yoga in that time frame as well. And I just feel like trying to keep myself trying to be as self-aware as possible is what keeps me kind of connected to doing what I love to do. And that's just really trying to inspire other people to do the same kind of things.
So yoga came in around 2017 for you? Is that right?
So yoga came in at the end of 2014.
Okay.
And then I really like dived really hard into it more around like 2019. In that period between there, I just was doing a lot of stuff at home. And then I just realized how much more I could be doing by going to a studio. And then I got an opportunity to do like a YTT, like a yoga teacher training. I mean, instructing and everything just all came together from there.
Now that's quite drastic, kind of what you went through and what I don't know. I can't even put into words. It's quite amazing.
It's interesting. Yes, I know it's been an interesting journey to say the least.
Yeah. Has yoga helped you with the balance within all that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I believe that yoga has. I think it took me a little bit more. I think part of what I needed to do was understand who I was, because I wouldn't say I was a completely different person, but I was definitely a different person before we kind of made these transitions and did these things. I've always been a goof. I don't think that's ever going to change. But I think the dynamics in which I grew up in, youngest in a family of 5, 2 older brothers, mom and dad, everybody having drug and alcohol problems, except for me, seeing that, growing up around that, you become an individual that's very self-conscious about themselves, that doesn't have a lot of confidence, that just kind of, unfortunately looks really down on themselves, deals with a lot of depression, deals with a lot of anxiety, those kind of things. I believe that starting this journey, like from yoga, was definitely a tool that it was a tool that I had there to really kind of help me progress into these other areas. And I didn't even know it, because you'll probably hear all the time, people get into yoga and they're like, I feel so different. I just don't know. I can't explain it. Like, everybody says that. We hear that all the time. I don't know. I just feel so different, but I really can't explain it. Like, I felt so different and I just couldn't explain it. And I think I started to develop more confidence in myself, and just abilities that I just never thought that I had just started really coming out.
So what was the difference between what you thought yoga was prior to going into to what you found out what yoga was about?
Yoga's been westernized, unfortunately, right? We know that it's not an uncommon, thing. I thought for sure I was going to be the only guy, which I was, and it was going to be nothing but, skinny white girls. That's the common stigma of what it is westernized. It's not exactly that. I think people are really starting to come out of their shell more about it now. I think there's people like me that are really, out there bringing more awareness to the fact that you do not have to be 110 pounds. You do not have to be a certain race. You do not, I mean, those things are gone and there's more people that are coming out. But I mean, that's exactly the same thing that I thought that it was at the start of it too. That it was just something for, skinny people.
Right. So actually, I kind of I'm interested in this because I'm interested, what is your self-care practice then? I think that would be very valuable to share to people.
So a lot of like my self-care practice is just trying to spend some time like with myself, trying to so like the morning hot tub routine it sounds kind of silly, but it's like this 20 minutes that I have to start the day to warm my body up kind of for the day. I also, like to try and make sure that I'm not just teaching yoga all the time. Like I said, I'm trying to go to classes and just trying to incorporate other like little fitness things in there as well to, because I mean, it's the best medicine that there is for you is kind of being more active. It releases that serotonin in the brain and kind of gets you going.
Where has that led you with your yoga journey then? Are you focusing on a certain type of yoga? Are you into more studying of other types? Where's your studies going with that now?
So I haven't really indulged too far into that. The training style that I did was very Baron Baptiste style, which I think is a great foundation. I know Bikram gets a really bad name, but the instructor that I go to, who's a 500-hour teacher, she incorporates a lot of that Bikram style into her classes. He may not be the greatest of human beings, but the practice itself is very disciplined, which is something that I do enjoy as well.
I find that interesting too, because I've been diving into Osho and his teachings, and I find that, I mean, he doesn't get the greatest name either, but I find there's some value within these, right?
Yeah. I think just like anything that we see in life, anybody that, and I mean, I don't know, this may not be the nicest thing to say, but anybody who starts to gain power in any type of situation that they're in can have it kind of catch up to them. It can kind of change them. And I mean, some of these individuals that we're talking about are people that gained a lot of, for lack of a better term, power, and it kind of overtakes them. And, I mean, self-awareness is probably the best tool that we can have to not, let that happen. I mean, my style right now, as far as teaching, I lead a very Baptiste style flow. I'm trying to make sure that you're having some fun with it. I like to take my yoga serious for sure. But I don't want to try and take myself too serious. We all have flaws. I try to tell the students that I have that come regularly, like, stop demanding perfection from yourself. Let's enjoy ourselves. Let's have fun. Let's keep the energy up. Let's keep the music up. My classes on the schedule are called Vinyasa Jam for a reason, because we like to kick it up a notch and have a little bit of fun. I also lead a restorative class that I do try to pull you down, pull everything back and pull that energy all back inside of you, that you may have lost for the week or for the month or for the day, and have that energy come back inside of you so you can go back out in the world and be that person that you're, we all want to be, that caregiver or whatever it is.
Yeah, I find when I go to a live class, or I should say an in-person class, it's my ego gets in the way, and that mental man competition where I'm like, oh, I'm going to push myself a little bit further than this guy. And like, and not just being with my body, right? Like I find it hard to just drop that competition.
I let go of that forever ago. That was probably one of the best things that I did. And that's probably, if I can give you any advice, it's probably one of the best things that you can do. I think we all are that person at times, for sure. And sometimes the energy in a room and in a class can carry you through even the hardest of poses. It can get you into the hardest of poses that you didn't think possible. But I have become really self-aware in my personal practice when I go to in-person classes to be able to know if I keep pushing myself, I could hurt myself. I could injure myself. Let's take a break. Let's drop it down. Let's grab child's pose. Let's catch our breath. Let's drop into hero's pose, catch our breath. And then let's go right back in, when we're ready. And that was probably one of the best things that I could do for myself and for my practice. And I got to say, it helped my practice grow even more, like my personal practice. It just helped my body more.
It's amazing. I find it like, it's like that sports attitude of me, and it's just, I think as long as you're kind of catching, you're recognizing, oh, okay, you're trailing off on something there, then you can at least readjust and start making proper adjustments.
That's another thing. That's another thing that's with guys. It is. I mean, it's a horrible, we got it beat into us at young ages about this win, go, fight attitude. And it's hard to break. It absolutely is. It is. But I guarantee you'll enjoy your practice more. Not saying, I'm sure you enjoy it now, but
like that's one thing actually I kind of want to bring up, because I have done, I would say similar to you, where I went out and did a couple yoga. I would say maybe not as much, but I did a couple yoga practices, and then I went and I did it at home. And then I got my teacher training from home. And it was actually just as COVID was starting. So we couldn't do it in person. So it had to be at home. And then my first actual, I would say, live class where I was ready, I was teaching it. And then so I didn't even really do any in-person classes. I would say maybe 2 or 3 prior to that, right? And then all of a sudden I'm teaching to kind of get into my teacher's groove, right? And what I want to bring up is, what is that difference you find between in-person and online, and how important is the in-person class? Because I feel like a little bit of that is fading.
To everybody listening right now, I think being able to do a yoga class via Zoom for you at the time is great. But please, please, please take the time whenever you can, once a week, every other week, go to an in-person class, because I had an at-home practice. I've never really been into the Zoom practicing thing. The energy in a room together when you're practicing with other individuals, everybody's in sync with their breath, their movement, their flow. The energy does something to you. It's nourishing your body and soul in a way that it's hard to explain. I encourage anybody, and I understand people have different lives. I was raised by a single mother, and I know how tough her life was. I know there's probably the single mom out there that only has maybe that 45 minutes that she can, jump on YouTube, or that single dad for that matter, and do a class from her computer. And that's great. And I still encourage you to do that. But I deeply encourage everyone, an in-person class, the energy in the room together, the community that can be built is magical. It really is. And I'm very grateful for the in-person classes that I get to teach and go to.
I couldn't agree more with that statement. There's that secret energy that's within the breath called prana that is all vibrating together with these people. And you can't, it's something you can't explain, because you have to experience it. It's existential, right? It's just, you have to experience it.
Yeah, I've even found for myself, like, because I try to go to other studios, because sometimes it is tough when you are an instructor and you go to the same place that you practice at, and it could be, it can be intimidating for some, or it can be intimidating just for yourself. So I try to venture out and go different places and not really, let it be known that I'm an instructor. And you still, like, even when it's people that like you've never like met before, you'll get that same energy. And that's what's so crazy about it. Like, I can get that energy, with the 8 people that I know that I've practiced with for a year, right? And then you go somewhere where nobody knows you. You walk in, you roll your mat down, you don't say anything. The flow starts and it's the same energy. And that's what the difference is between virtual classes and going in person. It's unexplainable. It really is. And I mean, it's everybody together. And I think it also has something to do with everybody's really trying to achieve that same goal, that
like-minded
prana breath.
Yeah. Are there any practices you do, say, besides yoga, that you would consider maybe unique or different?
So the studio that I work at, that I instruct at, it's actually also a Pilates studio. So I'm actually trying to really get a little bit more into trying more Pilates.
I love Pilates. I love it.
It's tough for me. It is. It's tough for me. It's surprising.
So tough.
So yeah, the studio that I work at, it has the reformers, which you wouldn't think, but it's tough. And then I'm also trying to do a lot more mat Pilates as well. But yeah, no, that's been something that I've been getting a little bit more into as of lately, is trying to get a little bit more of that side of things that practice as well as in the Pilates. And then cool. I also have the crystal singing bowls, and I have some brass ones as well. I try to get those, do some sound bath and get a little bit more into that, and use that for meditation a bit more as well too.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah, I used to do, I did a lot of sound therapy prior to even me getting into yoga. And yeah, it's amazing where that's a whole journey within itself too. And it's fun to
So I didn't know anything. Yeah, I didn't know anything about sound therapy really until I did my my teacher training for yoga. And from there, I started looking more into it, getting a little bit more into it. Then I started actually getting some of the bowls myself. And when you're playing them, it really is kind of that sound therapy really does it for you too.
Yeah, it's great. I incorporated them into my class. I teach a hatha class, so I'll incorporate them in between the shavasana, and I'll kind of play a little bit of their just a deeper relaxation in shavasana.
Yeah. I usually try to start my restorative class with the crystal bowls, and then I end it with the crystal bowls as well. So it's nice, and I mean, I think people they love it.
Cool. We're almost time. Time's almost up. So we do have a couple more questions that I do want to ask you, and it could be a bigger question. But what has been your biggest learning experience?
My biggest learning experience is spending so much time with self-doubt. I mean, I try not to look back and regret anything that I did or didn't do for that matter. And when I kind of had these eye-opening experiences that could have either taken me down or go up, it was nice to, start to eliminate that self-doubt that I constantly had in myself for the better part of the start of my life throughout, up until into my 30s. I think when you have something traumatic like that happen, it does create a learning experience for yourself. And I'm glad that I just turned it into positive as opposed to going negative, which is also could have been a very strong possibility as well.
So it's almost like no matter who you are, no matter what your age, you can continue to reinvent yourself.
Yeah. That's the nail on the head right there, Matt. I mean, it's just, yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, I would say that there was probably a time, before some of those things happened where I'd maybe checked out. I mean, mentally, I probably was a little bit checked out. I mean, I didn't care about my weight, my health. I knew I was horribly depressed. I didn't care. I didn't care to try. I mean, I didn't care to try to even, advance in my career or anything at all. And, it was a learning experience that came from, losing two brothers like that, and gaining more confidence in myself was probably the best learning experience out of all of it. And I mean, it completely turned me around for sure.
Yeah, there's necessary experiences and feelings we have to go through to make those changes and make them aware.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what are you offering people right now in the yoga community? What are you teaching? And
so right now I teach 3 classes on our schedule at the studio. I teach a Friday afternoon, right about after work class. It's a Vinyasa happy hour jam with John. We usually try to have a little bit of wine, and we do a nice flow. We definitely rock out. You'll hear some interesting tunes on my playlist for yoga, which I think people enjoy. And then on Sundays, I do back-to-back classes where I do a 45-minute flow class, and then a hour restorative class right after. Same style in the flow class as well. And then for restorative, I try to get everybody, like I said, re-energized for the week, calm that central nervous system down, let it restore, and get them balanced and ready to go for the week. I try to plan the flow to try to align all those 7 chakra points in the body, so you kind of are all nice and lined up and ready to go for the week.
Awesome. And you're in Ohio? What city?
I'm in Ohio. I'm in Akron, Ohio. So I live in a little township. It's called Coventry Township. It's Portage Lakes. It's a little lake community. I don't live on the lake, but it's a little lake community, and it's just a little bit south of Akron, Ohio. And usually people know Akron, Ohio, because we all know who's from Akron, LeBron James. So that's kind of the best way to landmark it, if you will, on where I'm at in Northeast Ohio.
Cool. Okay, so where can everyone find you?
So I have my Instagram that I do a lot of my yoga stuff on. It's called Super Sized Yogi. That's my Instagram. That's where you can find all the crazy stuff that I'm trying to do. You'll enjoy seeing a 6'5", 300-pound guy standing on his head. If you don't, you're crazy, because it's a lot of fun to watch.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
If anybody ever makes their way this way, the studio I teach at, it's called Peace Corps Studios, and it's in Coventry Township here as well.
Awesome. We'll provide all the links. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm not doing that. No, and I'm not doing that. I'm either trying to go to a little local lake community pub with my wife, Angela, who I've been with for over 20 years now. We met when we were 15 and 16 years old, and have been rolling strong ever since. Or going to the closest metal concert with my 16-year-old daughter, Chelsea,
nice.
Who's probably a bigger metalhead than me. We just recently went and saw Rob Zombie, Korn. She saw Slipknot this year, and
amazing.
We're having a ball going to all kinds of metal shows. Yeah,
we're having the classics. Awesome.
Yes, good stuff. For sure.
Well, thank you so much for coming on, John, and sharing your experience. I would love to have you on again if you want to come on and share some more stories and things.
I'd love to. I feel like I love it. I feel like I'm watching the timer now. I didn't even notice the timer, and I'm like, oh man, I probably babbled on a little bit too long on some of those areas.
No, it was great. And you know what? Like I said, typically I have a longer, but I had problems getting into my other Zoom, so I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, so I'll definitely have you on so we can have you on longer and learn more about you and share your experiences. But thanks again, and everybody.
Anytime, I appreciate it.
Yeah, and all the information, John, will be in the show notes, and people can follow and check out what you're doing.